Sending data. All the things say that they are connecting. Maybe we'll be live here in a second. Oh, we have 1, 2. We're waiting on one more to say that it's streaming. And then we'll start talking. As soon as we get our acknowledgement from our production staff, which you can't see, but they're around the corner. We have producer, Emily. We have videographer, Emily. We have production design, Emily. We have set design, Emily. That's our production staff. All 4 of them. They're all really good. I enjoy working with all of them. All right. So she'll give me a thumbs up when we're ready. And until then, drum roll. And we're usually good, but we always wait because we've had problems before where I forgot to turn on the mic, where I streamed to the wrong service, so nothing was actually showing up. If you can do it wrong, I've probably done it wrong on doing a live broadcast in some way. So we now have this standard where I'll just kind of burn time here until Emily says, oh yeah, we're good to go. She usually gives me a thumbs up or she says something, but maybe it's good.
LinkedIn is good.
Okay.
I'm not seeing YouTube.
All right. Well, if she says LinkedIn's good, so we will start there. And we'll just move forward, and we're recording it too, so we can always put it up and about. Welcome. This is PAMcast for November 19th, 2024. PAMcast is our monthly talk with existing partners or people curious about TechIDManager. This covers 4 people who know what TechIDManager is, things that have changed the last month, things that are coming in the next month, and important information about TechIDManager, about privileged account management, and other stuff that I feel like getting sidetracked on. Sometimes I get sidetracked, sometimes I don't. It really comes down to how I'm feeling for the day. Today I'm feeling very business oriented. We're gonna get on it, get this done. We have a lot of things to talk about. So let's bring up the agenda. Here's our agenda. We welcome you all, and we're gonna talk about what we have been up to, some of the new features, and then what will be available, what we'll talk about next time. What have we been up to? Last month, we had Helene, and we were really put back by that. So this past month, we have had our heads down doing development and more documentation. We have been burning through some of the backlogged issues, some of the things we hoped to get done the previous month, trying to get caught up. We're not caught up yet, but we're working on it. So we'll talk about all these development stuff we've done in the new features section that's coming next. But we have been up to quite a bit of documentation. So let's look at that. If you go to TechIDManager.com or ruffiansoftware.com, under partner resources, if you look at how-to articles, you'll see that there are quite a few new articles in the end of October and November. We have decided we changed some of the things we're doing about documentation, and we're going to get putting out a lot more documentation. We have been developing. Now we're going to do development and documentation. Emily is really driving this effort. She is phenomenal at this. She's also the production staff, if you noticed. She's quite a multi-talented little girl. So we'll just work these backwards. We have some documentation on converting a PAM to a LAPS instance. This is really the wrong way to go about that. Let me go back one. The first thing we put out was instances in the domain service. The domain service is the agent that runs on a Windows computer or a domain controller. It can do a bunch of different things, which we've talked about and you should be familiar with. We can do PAM accounts, we can do LAPS accounts, we can do just-in-time accounts, we can do managed accounts, you can mix and match any of those, you can change the times. You can also do multiple of those things. And this documentation about instances in domain service talks about some of the different things and the ways you can set that up and how you can have 1, 2, and 2, 3, 4, how many instances you want of TechIDManager's agent running on the same machine, doing different things, showing up in the management console as different agents, and allowing you to configure who has access to those different agents differently. Like in this particular example here, on Tacoma.net, there is a shared LAPS shared admin account for the MSP.admin account that's a managed account. There are also unique accounts that are just-in-time domain accounts that TechIDManager makes for multiple people. This documentation describes that, describes how to set it up, describes the domain service.exe space show command line, which if you're dealing with instances is the way that you see the different instances and the way they're configured. There's a bunch here, read through it. And if you really want to see me, there's me talking about it a whole bunch. All right, that was pretty good documentation on some of the more advanced things that TechIDManager can do. Like if you want on a domain controller to manage domain accounts and rotate the password on some service account, that you would set up an instance of the domain service for each of those things. If you additionally wanted to have a break glass account that TechIDManager rotates the password on that's shared with only a few people, you'd set up a third instance. You can set up as many instances as you want. This instancing also allows multiple MSPs to have managed accounts on the same domain or the same Azure tenant or the same workgroup machine. Lots of stuff that can happen there. One particular implementation or example of that is this documentation about converting PAM to LAPS. So if you have a PAM instance where you are making unique accounts for the technicians on a domain controller or a Windows workgroup machine, whatever Windows machine, but you like to convert it to a LAPS instance where you're sharing one admin account, this is the documentation for how to do that. Essentially, you add the LAPS instance with this command line. It shows up, you configure it, it shows up in the management console, then you delete the old, you turn off the old instance, and then you delete the old instance from the management console. There's written documentation about it, as well as a video talking about it. There's also setting up MFA or via TOTP for Entra ID with TechIDManager. So we've added a while ago the ability in TechIDManager to manage. If we look at this Azure account here, the TOTP MFA for a just-in-time Azure account, or not. For this one, I kind of use push. For this one, I use TOTP. You can mix and match them any way you want, but this documentation is how to set up that TOTP MFA for a just-in-time or a managed Azure account. There's documentation here. There's me talking about it and showing and going through an example of it. This should be useful for anybody that wants to keep that information in TechIDManager. And remember, that information is all zero visibility stored, so it's encrypted with the private key for the person, for the technician that it's supposed to be used by. We can't see it. Nobody else can see it. Just they can see it. There are two arguments when it comes to, here's a tangent. I'm about to jump off on a tangent. There are two major positions or camps when it comes to the storage of MFA with a password vault. Some people say do it. Some people say don't. There are multiple reasons for MFA, for that second factor. One of them is non-replayability of attacks. One is a secondary confirmation of who you are. Which of these you put as more important, and how you prioritize these can really determine whether you want to store the MFA information in the same tool that you store the password in, or whether you want to store it in a different tool. We, as security professionals, take the opinion that there are lots of situations and things that you run into that say we can't tell you there's only one right way to do it. We have partners who want to use push MFA for Entra ID accounts, and we have partners who want to use the TOTP MFA stored in TechIDManager for their Entra ID accounts. Both are very valid ways to do it. There are arguments for and against both of those. The argument against the MFA, the push MFA on the individual technician's phone is that when they lose their phone, they have to go reset that up. And that is problematic. You don't have to do that with TechIDManager. You can lose your phone, you get a different phone, real straightforward. All the information just transfers as long as you have that private key. Even if you don't have that private key, we can get it back for you, can help you. All right. So there's documentation about that. It's really a good thing. Two more to show real quick. 𝗕𝗏𝑖D location usage for techs. In 𝗕𝗏𝑖D, the usage location for a technician, we can now set across all the accounts made inside that particular 𝗕𝗏𝑖D instance. It was requested by one of our partners, so we put it in there. You just put the 2-letter code in this particular configuration variable, you're good to go. This one we've talked about before, but since Emily wrote the documentation for it and she's really good at that, thought I'd throw it out there. The documentation tool integration, where you can get the tech client link for any of the accounts managed in TechIDManager, and you can put that in any documentation tool and real easily take somebody straight from a documentation tool like IT-Glue or Hoodoo to that account that should be referenced, that is their unique account relative to that entry in whatever the documentation tool is. So if you have any questions about it, I'd love to talk to you personally about it. Just book a meeting or a support call, whatever. We'll talk about it. All right? That's the documentation stuff that we've been working on. We plan to add more. There's some documentation up there on API usage, and we're going to add more to that. We are continually adding and growing TechIDManager based on feedback from our partners, and that is our favorite thing, is feedback from our partners. So if you have any, send it to support@techidmanager.com. Love to hear about it. All right, let's move on to the boring technical stuff, the new features. We have done a few server releases over the last month. We added mostly branding, I believe. So if we look at this, we did some, speed changes to agent group access. We had some partners with thousands and thousands of agents installed, and sometimes agent group access would get slowed down. We sped that up. It should be really fast. We had some internal changes to support one of the other features we're going to talk about, which is the single subscription for 𝗕𝗏𝑖D. We added the ability to reset a technician's MFA for the tech client directly from the management console. This is a change in both the management console and the tech client, which will allow a manager to say, this technician lost their MFA, reset it, so as long as they know their passphrase, they can then set up new MFA and get in. Real technical change to the ordering by which accounts are created and managed for this edge case of a particular partner of ours that had a very slow machine, who wasn't able to update all the accounts in a reasonable time frame. We made some internal speed optimizations, and here's an interesting one. We removed port 80 HTTP response for all TechIDManager access. We only respond on 443 now. This was driven for a few different reasons. One, nobody should be using port 80 for HTTP response to talk from any of the agents, any of the tech clients. Everything has been on HTTPS since version 0.9 something. We had simply maintained HTTP to HTTPS redirection for convenience. That has been removed on all of our servers for security reasons. Audits say you shouldn't have port 80 open, so we don't. So that's the server changes we did. Oh, and branding. So if you look at the management console, I'll just bring it up real quick. If you log into the management console, under client options, there's now this, I gotta move out of the way. I don't even know which way I'm moving. Over here. You'll see it down here. When you go there, you'll see it. I go this way. There's branding down there at the bottom under client options. That's a total design fail. I have to talk to my production set designer about that. Under branding, you can change the company name, the accent color, the icon, and the banner image that TechIDManager uses. So that means that this icon, this banner image, and this name, as well as the stuff that's on the About screen, can be branded so that they have your name, your logo, all your stuff. It was requested. We did it. It's really straightforward. It's pretty simple. It is in beta, so that if you find any issues with it, let us know. We think it's pretty cool, but maybe I'm biased because I like seeing my logo there, and I think you might like seeing your logo there also. We have new tech client release. This updates the tech client to .NET 8. This was a long time in the coming because of a bunch of feature creep that kept happening. We kept thinking, oh, we can add this little thing and that little thing, and we can reorganize this to be faster and better. So there was quite a bit of internal code cleanup and feature creep that went on with this tech client release. So if we look this tech client release, version .534, the MFA reset from the management console is in there. There's some minor bugs with right-click menus. And if we go back to the version right before this, we added leaf searching in the management console, in the vault and the manage password tab, leaf search and leaf selection when you select something in the tab. I think that's a really neat feature myself. It's sometimes a little more subtle, but was trickier, not tricky, but like useful to put in. So when you select something in this tree, like 𝗫, it pre-selects this point in the tree to let you know where it is in the leaves. If you select something in the tree, it narrows the list to just what you have selected in the tree. So if you're on development and you select goldfish, you can actually have two items selected over one, which is the limit filter for what is shown, and one is the actual leaf for the item you have selected. Make sense? I hope it makes sense. It should make sense. It's pretty straightforward. If you have any questions about it, would like it to work some way different, just let us know, and we'll put it on the list. All right. A big one that we spent quite a bit of time on is the Azure subscription update to single and cloud. So this is the terminology for this, and this is available pre-release right now. We'd love it if you would go try it out. If you go to Azure AD pre-releases, you will see that version 5.357 is a pretty significant change in the way that things function. There are now two installations. There is a primary installation, which is the installation that you install one place, all the execution, all the subscription costs or consumption computing happens in that installation inside of an Azure Entra ID tenant. This should be installed on the MSPs Azure tenant. This installation keeps all the secret information that allows access to all the secondary installations. The secondary installations are done on your client's tenants, the places where their accounts are actually created and maintained. The primary installation is just the execution engine that we grant access into those places. This separation of roles and responsibilities and information is because of our security bias. We do not keep keys to your infrastructure. We don't keep access tokens. We don't keep usernames, passwords. We can't see any of that. It's all encrypted with asymmetric encryption as it passes through our infrastructure. But the primary instance or the primary installation of the Entra ID agent needs access keys to the secondary installations. Those are kept in the Azure tenant that the primary installation is done on. This means that if, God forbid, TechIDManager, Ruffian software is ever hacked, anybody gets access to all of our data, none of your information is exposed. We don't have those keys. Those keys are kept in your Azure tenant. So they're as protected as Azure is and protected as you want to set up your tenant to be protected. They are pretty well protected there too. The installation is pretty straightforward. These are the basis of the installation instructions. Download and install the Azure CLI on your computer. Download the primary installation script to your computer and run it from a PowerShell window. You'll be asked to log into the Azure tenant that will be running the primary installation. This is the one with the subscription. This should be your MSPs tenant. Answer all the questions and say yes to making a primary installation. It'll take between 5 minutes and 45 minutes to set up and do what it needs to do. Then you download the secondary installation application to your computer. This is not a script. This is a zip file. It's an application. This is the pre-release. For the actual release, we plan to integrate this into the tech client. So it'll be much more graphical, but this one's still command line driven. extract that folder zip file to a folder, change into that directory with the PowerShell window, and run the 𝗦𝘬ide installer. This will prompt you to log into an Azure tenant. You log into the secondary installation tenant, the tenant that you actually want to do stuff and control stuff in. Answer the questions. It's going to ask for your client ID, ask those standard questions. What you want the RMM name to be, friendly name, all that kind of stuff. And then say yes, and it will install it. That takes 2 or 3 minutes. If when you log in, it finds an existing installation, it will ask if you'd like to convert that to a secondary installation. And if you say yes, it'll do that. That takes 2 or 3 minutes. Maybe 30 seconds if you really if you're quick at answering the questions. So in this way, only the one install, the primary install actually has code installed in it, all that kind of stuff. The secondary installations just set up the links between the Azure tenants and the access for the primary tenant to access the secondary tenant. This has been running for us for a while. This is we think this is good to go. This is pre-release though. We would love for you to install it, give us feedback on it, on the process. If you want us to install it with you, you can always go to this link up here, Partner Resources and White Glove Install. Book some time and we will go through that single subscription Azure install with you. All right? Oh wow, the holidays are here. The calendar is really getting booked up. Holidays and installations and stuff like that. All right. So that is the Azure subscription update. 𝗦𝘬ide, primary, secondary, one subscription instead of a subscription per tenant that you're managing with TechIDManager. This is really not a technological decision. This is a business-driven decision. Our partners came to us and said, hey, we'd like to manage one subscription cost instead of one subscription cost in each tenant. So we looked at it, figured out how to do that, and maintain the security that us not having those access keys necessitates. That's why there's a primary that maintains the keys that we don't have access to, and the secondary is where those keys are used to maintain that access. This is, if you have any questions about it, any questions about the architecture, the installation, either set up a white glove install for it or contact us at support@techidmanager.com. Love to answer any questions that you have. The MFA reset. I've mentioned this MFA reset from the Management Console a couple times for the tech client, but we didn't show it. Let me show it to you real quick. So in the Management Console, when you look at a tech, go to techs, look at a particular tech like Martin here. You can see I install all the beta versions because I just want to try them out. There's a button down here now that's Allow MFA Reset. If a technician has MFA enabled on their tech client and they've lost that MFA, you can allow them to reset that MFA. That is a one-time operation that the next time they open the tech client, instead of asking them for their MFA, it will remove the MFA and then move forward. If you have forced MFA, it will immediately take them to the MFA resetup screen. They still must know their passphrase to get past that initial step, but the MFA you can reset. We did this because one of the number one support issues that we have is technicians lose their phone, they replace their phone, they go swimming with their phone in their pocket, they drop it, they leave it on top of their car and drop it off of the roof of their car, all kinds of things like that. So we added this so that if you need to reset the MFA for the tech client, but you still remember the passphrase, you can still get in. All right? You just click it, it says yes, and then next time they log into the tech client, the MFA is gone, and they have to reset it up. Pretty straightforward, but it's the number one support issue, so we've added it. Next time, that's all the technical features. Next time, we have a new version of the mobile app for both Android and iPhone. This is a pretty major update from Xamarin and .NET 4.7 to MAUI and .NET 8.0. There's a different look to it, a different feel. It adds the vaults. It adds quite a few of the features that the tech client on Windows has are now going to be definitely fully available in the mobile app. You still won't be able to change a password or add a password in the mobile app, but you would have to see things. Changing and adding passwords in the mobile app is coming. The update agent service is in beta, working for the internal stuff. That will be available next time. The Mac OS Tech Client. Right now, I have a Mac sitting on my desk over there. I have an iPhone right over there. I like the Mac ecosystem, but in the business world, unfortunately, the Mac ecosystem is the redheaded stepchild of developers. So it has lagged behind our Windows Tech Client. Still fully functional, but not everything has been there. Faults haven't been there for a while, and so that is coming. And there's some other like minor cleanup issues that are coming. So a new Mac OS Tech Client with some significant cleanup and brought up to parity with the Windows Tech Client should be available this month. Well, not this month, but before the next PAMcast. Also. All right. So that is what we've been up to for the past month, kind of to what we're targeting for the next month. I don't see any questions that need answering, so I thank you for being here. We really appreciate all of our partners we have, and if you have any issues, questions, comments, concerns, support@techidmanager.com, and refer your friends. Love y'all. Have a great day. Bye.